Welcome back to Superbly Said Advanced English Vocabulary and Phrases.
Today's critique focuses on a lesson presentation titled How to Get Anyone to Talk to You First, which outlines advanced English vocabulary related to social dynamics for a SpeakDuo lesson.
You can go to SpeakDuo.com to meet new people from around the world who are practicing English on video calls to become more confident with their speaking abilities.
Right, so jumping right in, aligning this document's highly engaging title with its actual instructional content represents our first major area of opportunity.
Yeah, the fundamental weakness here is a stark disconnect between the promise of the title and the execution of the slides.
When a learner clicks on How to Get Anyone to Talk to You First, the title heavily suggests a behavioral psychology guide. Or social skills training.
But then the material just immediately pivots into a traditional English vocabulary lesson defining idioms like stuck on the sidelines or a game changer.
Right, and this bait and switch leaves an audience feeling slightly disoriented as they are primed for social strategies rather than direct language definitions.
I see what the creator's going for by using a catchy hook, but you have to deliver on that premise.
Exactly.
So the suggestion is to explicitly bridge this gap by framing the vocabulary words not just as linguistic terms, but as the actual strategic tools needed to achieve the social goal promised in the title.
We need to weave the behavioral psychology directly into the language instruction.
For sure. Concrete examples for improvement would include adding a brief introductory note to each idiom that explains exactly why mastering this specific phrase helps in a social situation.
So let's look at how we can do that with the phrase, stuck on the sidelines.
Right. So if we compare stuck on the sidelines to a similar phrase like, say, being ignored.
They are subtly different.
Very different. Being ignored just means people aren't paying attention to you. But being stuck on the sidelines implies you are actively watching the action happen, you want to participate, but you are excluded from joining in.
It has a much more frustrating, almost physical nuance to it.
Exactly. So if you're talking to a boss or colleagues, you might say, I felt stuck on the sidelines during the merger because I wasn't invited to the planning meetings.
That's a great example. So on the slide, instead of just defining it, the creator could frame it as a strategy, something like learn how to advocate for yourself when you feel stuck on the sidelines.
Right. It gives the idiom a behavioral purpose.
Let's apply that to a game changer.
So a game changer versus just an improvement.
An improvement is incremental. It's just making something a little bit better.
But a game changer is a new idea or event that significantly changes the current situation entirely. It alters the whole strategy.
Right, so in a work context, you wouldn't call a new coffee machine a game changer. But you would tell your boss, rolling out this new automation software is a game changer for our team's productivity.
Exactly. And for the slide, the behavioral hook could be use the phrase a game changer to instantly command attention when pitching a new idea.
That is so much more engaging for an advanced English learner. Let's look at another one. They included a nervous chatter.
Oh, this is a big one for social dynamics. So let's compare a nervous chatter to small talk.
Small talk is polite, it's intentional, it builds rapport.
Right, whereas a nervous chatter is fast, continuous, and often completely meaningless talking directly caused by anxiety.
It's what happens when you panic.
Exactly. If you're doing an IELTS Speaking Part 2 response about a stressful event, you might say, when I forgot my lines in the university play, I just broke into a nervous chatter to fill the silence.
We've all been there. So to frame this on the slide, the material could state, magnetic people avoid nervous chatter. Here is how to recognize it in yourself and replace it with confident silence.
Which completely fulfills the promise of the lesson's title.
Totally. And the last one for this section, to flip the script.
To flip the script is a fantastic idiom. It's very different from just changing the subject.
Right. Changing the subject is just moving to a new topic of conversation.
But flipping the script means to completely reverse a given situation or change the usual way things go. It's about taking control of the dynamic.
So, in a professional setting, you might say, the client was ready to cancel the contract, but our sales director flipped the script by offering them a strategic partnership instead.
And the behavioral framing on the slide could be flip the script on social anxiety by assuming you already belong in the room, and use this phrase to take control of the conversation.
That directly ties the language learning back to the behavioral promise. It's a massive upgrade.
It really is. Now, moving on to the learner's journey through this material, optimizing the placement of promotional material is essential to preserve the overall pedagogical flow.
The primary weakness in the current layout is that the advertisement for the 7-day free trial of SpeakDuo Pro appears on slide 2.
Right after the title.
Right. This happens before the learner has been introduced to any tactics and before they have received any tangible value. Presenting a call to action for a paid trial before establishing the quality of the content causes massive friction.
It feels entirely transactional, right out of the gate.
Exactly. The suggestion here is to relocate these promotional slides to natural breakpoints deep within the presentation, specifically right after moments where the learner is highly motivated.
Concrete examples of this structural shift include moving the trial advertisement to immediately follow Breakout Room 1 or Breakout Room 2.
But you also have to tailor the ad copy to fit those specific moments.
You do. Instead of a generic trial banner, the creator could rewrite the slide to say, "Want to practice using phrases like a game changer with real conversational partners right now?" Match with advanced speakers from your preferred regions using a 7-day free trial of SpeakDuo Pro.
That transforms the advertisement from an annoying interruption into a highly relevant, immediate solution.
It just makes sense. You give them value first, then you offer the tool.
Which brings us to how they're actually practicing these concepts within the presentation itself.
Shifting the practice sections from passive reading examples to active generation prompts will significantly strengthen the learner's retention of the material.
The glaring weakness is that the slides currently labeled practice provide both the target question and a fully formed, pre-written answer.
Right. So it asks a question and then immediately supplies the written text for the answer.
Because the answer is already provided, the learner is not challenged to actively retrieve the vocabulary or apply the target phrase to their own life.
The suggestion is to redesign these practice slides to be entirely open-ended, forcing the learner to formulate their own unique thoughts. Let's demonstrate this with some of the other idioms from the lesson, starting with to hunch over.
Okay, so to hunch over versus to lean in.
Leaning in shows engagement and interest, but hunching over is to bend your body forward and downward, often making you look unconfident or stressed.
Like when you're working late. You could say, I always catch myself hunched over my laptop when a strict deadline is approaching.
So instead of just having that sentence on the screen to read, the active practice prompt could be, take a moment to evaluate your current posture. Are you hunched over your screen right now? Adjust your posture to radiate confidence and describe out loud how your physical state changes.
I love that. Let's go to be drawn to.
To be drawn to is much stronger than just saying you like something.
Right, liking is just a preference, but being drawn to means to be naturally attracted to someone or something because they are genuinely interesting. It feels almost magnetic.
So for an IELTS prompt about hobbies, someone might say, I've always been drawn to photography because it allows me to capture fleeting moments.
So the active prompt on the slide could be a scenario. You are at a networking event. Think of a colleague you deeply respect. Explain out loud why you are naturally drawn to their leadership style.
That forces real cognitive work. Let's look at to radiate.
To radiate versus to show.
Showing an emotion is basic, but radiating means to clearly demonstrate a strong feeling or energy through your own behavior, projecting it outwardly to everyone around you.
Like the sun radiating heat.
Exactly. So a workplace example would be, even during the company layoffs, our department head managed to radiate calm and keep everyone focused.
And the active prompt could ask the learner, think of a time you were incredibly stressed but had to hide it. How did you manage to radiate confidence instead?
Let's look at the phrase a paradox.
A paradox is an interesting one. It's often confused with a contradiction.
Right, the contradiction is simply two things that oppose each other and cannot both be true. But a paradox is a scenario that seems totally impossible as it contains two opposite facts, but it might actually be true upon closer inspection.
So an example might be, it is a strange paradox, but the more communication tools we adopt at work, the harder it is to actually reach anyone.
That's a perfect example. So the active prompt on the slide could challenge the learner with a situational judgment. Describe a modern paradox you've noticed in your own workplace using the phrase, it is a strange paradox but.
And the last one is to be closed off.
Being closed off versus being quiet. Being quiet just means you aren't speaking. Being closed off means your body language or attitude is actively blocking people from connecting with you.
So when I feel overwhelmed at a party, I tend to cross my arms and become very closed off.
And the prompt could simply be the sentence starter, When I feel closed off at a networking event, I usually and let the learner finish the thought out loud.
These active generation prompts serve as the perfect warm-up for those live breakout rooms on SpeakDuo.
They really do. Now, to help lock in all these nuanced definitions for our listeners, let's run through a quick quiz based on the material we just covered.
Sounds good. We will read the question and 3 options, A, B, and C. We will repeat the target phrase so you know exactly what you are listening for.
And feel free to pause the audio here after we read the options if you need a moment to think about your answer.
All right, question 1. What does it mean to be stuck on the sidelines? Option A, to forcefully push oneself into a conversation without being formally invited. Option B, to be excluded from joining an activity, simply watching others do it instead. Option C, to deliberately refuse to communicate with peers during a stressful situation.
Feel free to pause here.
The answer for it to be stuck on the sidelines is option B, to be excluded from joining an activity, simply watching others do it instead.
Just like our example of feeling excluded from the executive planning meetings during the merger.
Exactly. Question 2. If something is considered a game changer, what is it? Option A, a highly disruptive technological error that completely ruins a presentation. Option B, a carefully planned corporate strategy that maintains the usual daily routine. Option C, a new idea, factor, or event that significantly changes a current situation.
Pause the audio if you need to.
The answer for a game changer is option C, a new idea, factor, or event that significantly changes a current situation.
Remember the example of rolling out the new automation software that completely altered the team's productivity?
Right. Question 3. What happens when you hunch over? Option A, to bend your body forward and downward, often making you look unconfident. Option B, to aggressively cross your arms in order to establish strong social dominance. Option C, to suddenly stand up very straight to proudly demonstrate intense motivation.
Go ahead and pause here.
The correct answer for hunch over is option A, to bend your body forward and downward, often making you look unconfident.
Like when you catch yourself bent over your laptop as a strict deadline approaches.
Rapidly acquire a vast advantage. Option B, to be naturally attracted to someone because they are genuinely interesting. Option C, to secretly sketch a detailed portrait of a completely unknown individual.
Pause here to think.
The answer for to be drawn to is option B, to be naturally attracted to someone because they are genuinely interesting.
This is the magnetic feeling we discussed, like being naturally attracted to a colleague's excellent leadership style.
Question 5. Which of the following describes a nervous chatter? Option A, a deeply profound and entirely meaningful philosophical dialogue about fear. Option B, a loud, surprisingly aggressive argument initiated by severe internal anger. Option C, fast, continuous, and often meaningless talking directly caused by anxiety.
Pause the audio if you need more time.
The answer for a nervous chatter is option C, fast, continuous, and often meaningless talking directly caused by anxiety.
Exactly what happens when you forget your lines in a play and just start talking rapidly to fill the silence.
Question 6. What does it mean when a person manages to radiate an emotion? Option A, to clearly demonstrate a strong feeling or energy through your own behavior. Option B, to intentionally hide your genuine emotional reactions during a negotiation. Option C, to absorb the intense psychological pressure created by a strict environment.
Take a moment and pause here.
The answer for to radiate is option A, to clearly demonstrate a strong feeling or energy through your own behavior.
Like a department head projecting outward calm and keeping everyone focused during company layoffs.
Question 7. If you flip the script in a conversation, what are you doing? Option A, to accidentally ruin an entirely perfect professional speech by losing focus. Option B, to completely reverse a given situation or change the usual way things go. Option C, to aggressively complain about a deeply frustrating corporate filming process.
Feel free to pause.
The answer for to flip the script is option B, to completely reverse a given situation or change the usual way things go.
This is taking control, like when the sales director stopped the client from canceling by offering a brand new strategic partnership.
And the final question, number 8, what is the best definition for the expression a paradox? Option A completely unexpected and totally straightforward solution to a huge issue. Option B, a highly structured mathematical theorem utilized only by seasoned experts. Option C, a scenario that seems totally impossible as it contains two opposite facts.
Pause the audio here for the last one.
The correct answer for a paradox is option C, a scenario that seems totally impossible as it contains two opposite facts.
Just like the strange reality that adding more communication tools at work somehow makes it harder to actually reach anyone.
Great job on the quiz, everyone.
So, to quickly recap the main actionable takeaways for today's critique. First, align the behavioral promise of the title with the vocabulary content by explicitly framing each idiom as a specific social strategy on the slides.
Value.
And finally, transform the practice slides from passive reading exercises into active, scenario-based generation prompts that challenge the learner to truly apply the vocabulary.
We highly encourage the creator to implement these structural edits to their lesson slides.
And we warmly invite you to submit your revised presentation back in again for another round of feedback once those updates are made. Thank you for sharing your work with us today.